Hello everyone, it's Rachel. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I make motherhood and lifestyle content, sharing my experience of being a young mom with 2 little children. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to help your child transition and adjust to having a new baby in the home, and specifically going from being an only child to now having a sibling. This is one of my biggest concerns when I got pregnant with our second, because my son had never had a sibling before. He was so used to being the only one and getting all of the attention. I was just concerned he was going to struggle with feeling ignored, being just overwhelmed with the change, and also not liking the baby. There are a couple things you can do to help your child adjust and get through this transition, and today I'm going to be sharing those with you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. So one thing you can do before the baby arrives is just to talk with them about what's going on and what's going to happen, the changes that are going to come. With my son, he was about 18 months at the time that the baby was born. So he's at that age where he doesn't fully understand things. You can't really sit down and tell him that mama's gonna go to the hospital and the baby that's in her belly is gonna come out and you're gonna have a little sibling, and he doesn't really understand all of that and what that really means or looks like. But still trying to communicate with them what's going to happen. Something we do with Tobias is just pointing out babies that we saw. Oh, look at that baby. We're going to have a baby soon. There's going to come a day when you're going to go stay at grandma and grandpa's for a little while mommy and daddy go to the hospital. When they're at an older age, it is a lot easier because you can just sit down with them and explain what's going on, and they'll understand. Whereas at 18 months, it's hard to know how much of it they really get. But still, talking with them about it, talking about baby and some of the things that are going to happen when the baby comes, so that they're kind of aware of what's going on and what's coming. Something I saw online that I think was a really good idea, we didn't do it, but I definitely think it can be really helpful, is getting them a doll to play baby with. This is something you can get them before the baby's born to kind of help them process a little bit, but they can also play with it after the baby arrives. While you're changing the baby's diaper, they can change their baby's diaper. They can play with it while you're breastfeeding. Play is one of the ways they process things. So getting them something to play baby with can help them kind of process through what's going on and understand, the changes and stuff that are happening. And also keep them entertained as well. Something else I found was that they say don't make any big changes in their routine, their lives, anything crazy 10 weeks before and 10 weeks after the baby comes. So that can be trying to wean them off breastfeeding if you're still breastfeeding. That can be taking away their soother, changing their room. Nothing drastic like that. You want to keep things familiar and comfortable for them leading up to when the baby's born and after the baby is born, while they're going through that whole transition process. Because if you're changing things up, it can just be very overwhelming that they're trying to handle this new change as well as adjust to there being a new baby, which is something so unfamiliar. So try to stick to their routine, try to keep everything as normal as possible until 10 weeks after. And if there are changes that need to happen, get those done about 10 weeks before the baby comes, so they can adjust to whatever that change is before the baby arrives. Now, there are some things you can also do after the baby comes to help them transition and adjust. And one of those being, don't force the baby on them and don't push them to interact with the baby. We all want our other child to love the baby as much as we do and to be as excited about having the baby as much as we are. But pushing the baby on them and trying to force them to interact with the baby may have the opposite effect that you want. They're trying to process and figure out what's going on and adjust. And if this baby that has now invaded their home is constantly being shoved in their face, they are not going to receive it well. If they are seeming interested in holding the baby or seeing the baby or sitting beside the baby, anything like that, then definitely let them. But if they are not interested, they don't really want to be with the baby, they don't want to touch it, that's fine. Don't push them. They will eventually get to the point where they are curious and where they are interested, and they've kind of realized that this baby isn't going anywhere, and they will start to interact with the baby more. But in the beginning, it may just be a little bit too much for them, and they just need space to try to adjust. And then when they are ready, they will start to be interested and interact with the baby. So let them take it at their own pace. Kind of going along with that, but in the opposite direction, is don't make the baby off limits. I know a baby is just, they're so fragile, and especially with a little toddler, it can seem a little scary letting them be around the baby. You're worried about them like poking their eyes or like being too rough with them. But if you make the baby off limits, something they're not allowed to touch, not allowed to go near, it's going to create a bit of tension and a bit of a barrier between them. So definitely you want to be around when your child is with the baby, especially if they're little. If they're a bit older, then they'll need less supervision. But my son, he was 18 months when our baby was born, so we definitely have to keep an eye on him when he's playing with her, because he doesn't fully understand being gentle. If they're ever, like poking at them or like pushing them around a bit, they are not intending to hurt the baby. This is something I've seen that I know from my son watching him. He's not trying to hurt her. He is looking for a reaction either from her, what will happen if I poke her cheek or poke her eye. He's looking to see what is she gonna do, and also what are mom and dad gonna do? What is their reaction gonna be if I do this? He is not intending to hurt. He is curious and trying to figure things out. So definitely keep an eye on them and, let them know, okay, I think baby's had enough now. Oh, that looks like that hurt. I don't think baby liked that very much. Give the baby a voice. Let them know when the baby is not liking what they're doing. But if you put the baby off limits, something they're not allowed to be around at all, it's just going to put a barrier between them, and they're going to have a hard time wanting to be with them when the baby's old enough for them to be around and to play with. When it comes time for family and friends to come over and visit the new baby, a big thing is encouraging them to acknowledge and also play with your other child. If your other child is neglected during these visits, it's going to leave them feeling hurt and ignored, and it is not going to make the transition process easy for them. Whereas if people take time to acknowledge them, to play with them a little bit, then it can take away some of the sting of suddenly not getting all the attention that they are used to. This is something that I definitely noticed affected Tobias when family came over and visited when Esme was born. And some of them were playing with him and entertaining him, while some of the others were with the baby, and then they'd swap and the people who were playing with him would see the baby. When they left, he was so sad. He was like in tears when they left, because suddenly mommy and daddy hadn't been able to give him the full attention he was used to having. And now these other people had come and they had spent time to play with him and be with him. He was really disappointed when they left. There was also an occasion where some people came to visit and they said hello to Tobias, but they quickly got very absorbed in the baby, and I could tell that Tobias definitely felt it. He did not want to be in the same room. He wanted to go off and play. He was really quiet and unlike himself, and it just broke my heart. You could see that he felt it. He felt ignored, and that even though he's so little, he's only a year and a half, he still has those emotions and those feelings. So making sure that your family and friends also acknowledge your other children, spend some time with them while they're visiting and not just getting so caught up in the baby. And while they're with the baby, maybe you could go take some time and be with them, sit with them, read them a story, play with them a little bit. One of the things that I was most concerned about with having a new baby was, what was I gonna do with my toddler while I was breastfeeding? Because you really do spend so much of your time breastfeeding, especially in the first few weeks or the first few months. How was I supposed to keep a toddler entertained while I was stuck on the couch breastfeeding? Some things you can do is have like a special box or a bin or a toy that you only pull out while you're breastfeeding. It just gives them something new and interesting for them to do, and it can help detract from the fact that, you're busy and you can't be with them. Something I would do is just make sure I'm in the same room as him. I wouldn't go somewhere else to breastfeed and leave him like locked up in his room or something. I'd go into the playroom. We have a little gate there, so I'd shut the gate so he's contained, but I'm in there with him, and I'd sit there and I'd breastfeed. And most of the time he'd be okay just as long as I was in the room. He'd sit and play nicely with his toys, just knowing that I was there and he wasn't by himself. Something he's been doing a lot more recently is he's gotten really interested in books. So he will come bring me a book while I'm breastfeeding and I'll read to him. And that has really helped, just knowing that like I'm not ignoring him while I'm breastfeeding. I'm still there. I'm still interacting with him. Something I heard from another YouTuber when I was, looking up ideas on how to help Tobias transition was, if there is a time when the baby is crying and your toddler is asking for your attention, as long as you know the baby isn't crying because they need your immediate attention, it's nothing urgent, then letting them wait and putting your toddler first, because so often it happens where we constantly tell them, just hold on a minute, I have to feed the baby. You have to wait a minute, I have to change your diaper. So taking those opportunities when everything is fine with the baby, maybe they're crying, but it's nothing urgent, or, they're getting fussy, but it's nothing that needs your immediate attention, and your toddler is asking for your attention, then putting them first in that occasion so they know, okay, mommy doesn't always put the baby first. I go first sometimes. Or even what she said in the YouTube video was even saying out loud, sorry baby, you need to wait just a minute. Tobias needs my help right now. Letting them hear that they sometimes get put first and it's not always baby before them. And of course, lastly, and this is like the biggest thing I think, is just making sure you're still spending one-on-one time with them. If the baby is sleeping, you don't need your attention or anything, take that time to be with your toddler. Sit down and play with them for a little while, read them a story, do something with them, and just spend time with them, because babies do take up a lot of the time. Your toddler is going to spend a lot of time playing on their own and having to entertain themselves because you can't be there all the time. You've got your hands full, you're busy. In those moments when you aren't busy, take time to be with them. They will appreciate it so much because it is hard for them. It's a big adjustment. So when you take that time to sit down and play with them, they will so appreciate it. That is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful. And if you did, be sure to leave it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you'd like to stay tuned for future videos from me, to see my vlogs and my other content. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. Bye-bye. The end? Oh, big smile.